What's the most influential thing in your life? Your parents? Your spouse? Your kids? Nope. The most influential thing in your life is language, the language that you consume, that you take in. Part of my central theory of life that I've learned as a journalist and broadcaster, that language is contagious. And what I mean by that is very simple. You know how if people get a cold, you're around them, you breathe it in, you end up getting the cold? Same thing as language. The language you read, the language you listen to, the news that you watch, all shapes how you see the world. That's why language is the biggest influence on you. And I'm just going to go out on a limb here, and maybe you understand this as well as I do. Everything is propaganda. And everybody's trying to feed you lines of bullshit every single day to get you to believe them. And there's a few things that you can do to move past the propaganda in life and make up your own mind and be free from the virus that is language sometimes. I'm going to use AI as a perfect example here. Artificial intelligence, it is here, and it is most of the business conversation that's happening right now. It's most of the conversation that's happening around the world. And this is where the propaganda really comes in, and learning how to separate yourself from it comes in handy. So there are major AI companies. I'm going to use 5 of them as an example. And they're all saying different things about their AI, and they're all promising to save the world, including OpenAI, which runs ChatGPT, which many people have used, including myself. It is run by a guy named Sam Altman. Now, Sam Altman's job is to make money. That's it, plain and simple, and that's where the propaganda comes in. The propaganda of making money comes in, storytelling form, and here's where it gets fun. Because each of the AI companies is engaged in their own story. They want you to be a part of their story. And sometimes most stories have what? A hero and a villain, a protagonist and an antagonist. So a lot of what you're seeing in the AI companies pitting themselves against each other fits right into the storytelling narrative, which is coming out as propaganda. So I love this because you can clearly see right through it. I'll use Elon Musk as another example. Elon Musk, who runs a bunch of companies, Tesla, SpaceX, XAI is part of SpaceX. And XAI's platform is Grok through the X platform, formerly known as Twitter. Sam Altman and Elon Musk do not like each other. Sam Altman and Elon Musk worked together on the OpenAI project when it was getting going, and they had a falling out, shall we say. So now they are doing the good guy, bad guy thing against each other, giving you propaganda saying, I'm the good guy, I'm Elon Musk. And Sam Altman's like, no, Elon Musk, the bad guy, I'm the good guy, believe me. And then you throw other companies into the mix. You got Google in there. Their Gemini product is pretty solid, particularly for searches. They want to integrate their AI into your life to be almost like an assistant. You've got Meta and Mark Zuckerberg. His AI platform is out there and about there. And then you've got Claude, which is run by a company named Anthropic. Anthropic's bet is that they're going to have the safety and the guidelines in place. Therefore, you should trust them more. But the reality is this. AI at this point is about money. Yeah. You've got a lot of people telling you that it's going to save you, it's going to increase your business, it's going to organize your thoughts, and sure, all of that is fine, all of that is true. But what's behind it all? The end goal. So all those 5 companies that want to make money. And these AI platforms are really designed like social media platforms. And what are social media platforms designed to do? Keep you on the platform. They want your time. It's just like watching TV shows. Your entertainment space, everyone's trying to grab it, right? There's a million podcasts, including this one. There's a million videos to watch. You can't keep up with all the content that you want, so you can't read all the stuff. So Facebook wants all of your time. They want it on Facebook and Instagram and WhatsApp. OpenAI through ChatGPT wants your time. So they're building these models to be cash models, generating revenue for these companies that will eventually go public and have huge IPOs. And then there's going to be all these people that are affiliated with all these companies stand to make money on it. These are people that pop up that tell you the greatness of AI and what it can do for you. And while, again, some of that is going to be true, look at the end result that they're looking for. And I used to work in politics. I was a radio broadcaster for a long time, a talk show host. So I talked about everything going on political, every breaking news event from the Bush Gore election until I quit in 2023. Every shooting, every election, every cultural event I discussed. And I'm going to give you an example of how I learned this propaganda lesson and how people continually feed you BS in hopes that you'll believe it and support things. So in 2003, I was a young broadcaster. I had just gotten a job in New Orleans, my first official talk show that was on my own. It was right around the time of the Iraq War. And you remember, this is a post 9/11 world, so the threat matrix has elevated as the Bush administration has to put out propaganda that they're trying to save us all, and they lied about going into war. Weapons of mass destruction, that whole thing. But see, here's what I learned, because I believed the government at the time. Who wouldn't? I was young. I didn't know any better yet. I didn't understand the full effects of propaganda. I didn't understand that language is the most influential thing in my life. So I looked at Colin Powell, who went to the United Nations at the time. I think he was the Secretary of State. Might have been a different position back then. I'm not sure. But Colin Powell was regarded as a general, as an honest guy in the room, trustworthy, made the right decisions. That's why the Bush administration put him in front of the United Nations to make the case to go to war against Iraq. But that was all based on falsities, which Powell later admitted and said that was his biggest mistake in the Bush administration. Why? Because it was propaganda designed to galvanize support for the Iraq war. And politicians get behind it because the popular sentiment went that way. At the time, if I remember correctly, call it September 2003, call it October 2003, support for the war was 70%, right? Because we're still in that post 9/11 mindset. And politicians, the only thing they care about is not losing an election. So they will say whatever they have to say, propagandize whoever they have to propagandize to get you to vote for them. So as the years went by, 2004, 2005, 2006, and there were no discoveries of weapons of mass destruction, I did a whole bunch of research, talked to a bunch of people, and realized that I was played by my own government. I was played. But this is such an important lesson because that formed how I lived my life going forward and how I presented myself on the air. And the same thing you can apply right now to AI. Here's the deal. You're just going to have to play around with it. You're going to have to experiment and use it how you want to use it. Whatever AI is going to do is what AI is going to do. Whether it's the doom and gloom scenario, whether it's the save the world scenario, or whether it's somewhere in between, which is probably most likely, you just have to understand that people stand to gain by selling you stuff, right? That's what we're talking about here. So the best way that I found to filter my way out of propaganda is developing my own filters. And this is how I built all my talk shows, and this is how I boosted my ratings, and this is how I made more money. My filters on air started with truth and accuracy. Number one, most important. When I was behind this microphone, I wasn't going to lie to you. I wasn't going to propagandize you. I was going to give you a point of view, but I wanted it to be based in truth and accuracy. And for me, I worked really hard to find the truth and be as accurate as possible. I read a wide variety of news every single day from various different perspectives, left, right, center, progressive, far right, just to get a sense of what everyone was talking about. Now, again, I'm not saying I agree with all of those positions, but I had to be open in order to study, in order to learn, to present as broad of a perspective as I could, because that broader perspective that I provided allowed more people to come in and listen to the show. So truth and accuracy was filter number one. Number two, the concept of freedom, which then I understood that our government's creed is to make sure that all men are created equal, but we know that that's not exactly how things work, is it? So freedom for me evolved to become free from propaganda that people are trying to sell me. People are trying to give me ideas on how to think or what wars to support or what policies to support. Well, now what I do with this freedom idea is I look to their motives. And let me give you another example. Tony Robbins is a guy I like a lot. I've been to several Tony Robbins events, and some of his methodology has benefited me tremendously. But here's another example of how people just try to stay relevant, to keep your attention. Tony Robbins, and Dean Graziosi, they run an AI summit that they've done now the last 2 or 3 years. It's free, so you can go on this big telecast, if you will, and you'll be sold certain things throughout the process. The idea, they say, is to give you a general overview of AI because, as they say, the AI train is here, and if you don't get on board, you're going to miss it, and it's going to take off. And that's fine, but that's propaganda because life is still going to life. You are in charge of living no matter what happens in the world. I realized this during the pandemic. I said all these people propagandizing me. You had the government officials propagandizing you. You had politicians propagandizing you. You had friends and people that might have disagreed with your position trying to sell you on fear or judge you based on their own beliefs. But I go back to my filters and I say truth and accuracy, number one. I see freedom, number two. Freedom is my ability to live life the way that I want to, so long as it doesn't harm anybody else, right? That's a major caveat and a major rule that we want to point out. It should be obvious, but we got to say it. So truth, accuracy, freedom, my filters to start working through some of this AI propaganda and understanding that these AI propagandists, these company owners, these people affiliated with AI, all stand to gain by my using AI. And if I'm listening to that fear, which they ramp up on purpose so that you bypass your filtering system and jump right in and give them money, is not benefiting you. The other two filters that I used every day, I'm a big believer in equality, and I'm a big believer in justice. And I mean by those is I'm not in charge of the courts. I'm not in charge of the DOJ. But I can carry with me a sense of justice and a sense of equality by the way I treat people, whoever it is. Could be a homeless person, could be the president of the United States, anywhere in between. How will I act in those situations? That is how equality happens. Equality is not going to happen through government policy. Equality is going to happen through individual efforts to treat each other well. That's where justice will come from as well, because when we see injustices, we can right those wrongs in the name of justice. So as I developed these filters, I started to realize more and more how language is the most influential thing in your life. And as I started to survey my life and my interactions with people on air, off air, I understood that to be so important and so critical that it helps to understand that so I can stay present in now. And when I'm present in now and I can stay calm and not judge, that's when I make my best decisions. That's when I treat people best. So that's what I'm encouraging you to do today is think about your filters. A lot of these filters are based on your values. So you really think about your values, and when you start looking at your value system, you start understanding how you see the world, how you filter the world, and how you process information that you have. And I process it all as propaganda. That doesn't mean all of it's bad either. I'm not trying to say all points of view are bad. Some are true. But you have to figure out for you what the truth is, what is accurate for you, what gives you the most freedom. And if equality and justice are part of your repertoire, how do you carry that into the world as well? And here's something else that I know in my experimentations with people of all different shapes and sizes, races and creeds, religions, that it's not just language is contagious. Language is the most influential thing in your life. A couple of other things to remember as well. Number two, it's always personal. It's always personal for you and for everyone else because all we have is our own filtering system to look through. So it's always personal. All we have is our own experiences we bring to the table. So that's personal. And this is why I am so obsessed with you living your great story. Because when I look at language and how it's used to get you to fit in, it becomes very easy to live someone else's story. Maybe it was your parents. Maybe they put pressure on you to pursue a certain career. Maybe you were pressured to be a doctor or a lawyer. You didn't really want to be, but you knew, well, my family will like it, and I know I'll make some good money doing it. That right there is a form of propaganda because it's taking you out of your own story, the ability to live the story that you want. And I chose early, luckily. I don't even really know how I do this, except that I trusted my intuition. I had faith that I was going to pick this radio career and it was the right path for me. And what was interesting about that is there was no propaganda about it. My parents didn't influence me. They didn't try to push me that way or push me another way. But there was some family, societal ideas on what a good life is that so many parents put on their kids. And what is a good life? Well, it's one where you work hard, you go to college, you work even harder, you get a job, you work even harder than that, and you grind away for 40 years, and then you retire, and then finally at the age of 65, you get to do what you want to do. Well, that wasn't what I had in mind for my great story. And my great story took me throughout the United States. I worked and lived in 6 states. I've traveled to 42. I've been to 21 countries. I remain open to possibilities because I know that at the end of it, item number 3 in Rob Hunter's rules of life is that you only can control you. That's it. You can't control propaganda. You can't control what's happening with AI unless you're actively building it. You cannot control who the president of the United States is. You cannot even control who your senator is. What you can control are the things you say, the things you do. Basically it. And once I learned that, oh man, talk about freedom. Going back to that filter that I have and looking at life through the filter of being free. But being free from other people's ideas and propaganda because they're not necessarily mine. So the final note I'm going to give you today, as you think about language being the most influential part of your life, how do you get quiet? How do you get still? Because there's a listening to yourself that matters. And I'm not talking about being in your head. I live in my head. Not always. But it's that stillness and that space and that connection with now, with the environment around me, that helps me listen to me. So that, going back to my first filter, I know I'm being truthful and accurate to myself and my vision for my great story that I continue to live, and I continue to close chapters and open new ones because stories evolve. So if you're stuck in a story, in a chapter that seems like it's never ending, how do you end that chapter? Understanding that language is the most influential thing in your life is part of the way there. And if you want to do more work on that, you know where I'm at. Send me a DM because I'm obsessed with you living your great story as well. So remember this. Language is the most influential thing in your life. And remember these 3 points. Language is contagious, like a virus, or a positive influence. Number 2, it's always personal. Whoever you're interacting with, they're bringing their circumstances with them, and they're going to view it through their own personal lens, just as you are. And then that third important piece is the key to your freedom. Stoicism, baby. Going back to Marcus Aurelius. They called it the dichotomy of control. I just say it's simpler. You can only control you. What you do, what you say. That's about it. So develop your values, your filter system, and be careful of the propaganda that you're listening to. I'm Rob Hunter. Cheers.